We often believe that once food is cooked, it's safe. That as long as it looks fine, it is fine. A few hours on the counter, a plastic container in the fridge, a plate of leftovers reheated the next day. Harmless, right? But the truth is more complex. Food doesn't freeze in time just because it's no longer hot. Even after cooking, even after placing it neatly in a container, it keeps changing. Silent, invisible changes. Chemical reactions, bacterial growth, moisture shifts, oxidation. And while our eyes and nose might not detect the danger, our cells will. Every time you eat something that's been stored improperly, even if it tastes okay, your body might be dealing with more than nutrition. It might be managing hidden bacteria, degraded proteins, toxins that slowly wear down the gut, the liver, the immune system. You won't feel it at first. The effects are subtle: mild stomach upset, bloating, fatigue after eating. But over time, the real damage builds quietly. Repeated exposure can lead to chronic inflammation. And inflammation, as doctors now understand, is often the seedbed for much worse, including cancer. Most people don't think twice. They store leftovers however it's convenient. Leave rice in the cooker overnight. Cool soup at room temperature. Eat week-old boiled eggs without a thought. Because nothing happened the last time, but the body remembers, and so does the bacteria. That's why this series matters. Not to scare you, but to arm you with knowledge, with awareness, so you can keep the food you love and store it in ways that keep it safe. In the next part, we'll begin with one of the most commonly stored foods in the world, rice. Simple, innocent looking, but when stored incorrectly, it becomes a quiet threat few people know about. It waits quietly in the corner of the kitchen. A pot of leftover rice, still warm, steam gently fading, no foul smell, no sign of danger, just a simple bowl of white comfort. But looks can deceive, because rice, more than almost any other food, has a hidden timeline. And once it crosses that invisible line, what was safe can quickly become harmful. Rice begins its story as a dry grain, stored for months in warehouses, then kitchens. And on that long journey, it often picks up a harmless passenger, a bacterium called Bacillus cereus. It's not new. It's not rare. In fact, nearly all uncooked rice carries it. And that's where the danger begins. When you cook rice, the heat kills most bacteria. But Bacillus cereus is clever. It forms spores, tiny protective shells that survive boiling water. They lie dormant during cooking. But once the rice cools, they come alive. If the rice is left out at room temperature, even for just 2 hours, those spores start to multiply. And not only do they grow, they produce toxins, invisible heat-resistant poisons. This is where most people make a crucial mistake. They think, it's fine, I'll just reheat it later. But the toxins released by Bacillus cereus don't break down in heat. You can microwave the rice, steam it, fry it in oil, and yet the toxins remain. You can't smell them, you can't taste them, but your gut will know. Within hours of eating improperly stored rice, the symptoms can appear. Stomach cramps, nausea, vomiting, sometimes intense diarrhea. It's often misdiagnosed as a stomach bug or something I ate. But few people trace it back to the rice, because it looked fine, because it tasted okay. And here's the real problem. It's not just about one bad meal. It's the habit of eating rice that sat out for hours, of storing it warm in a cooker, of reheating it multiple times throughout the week. Each time your gut lining gets stressed. Each exposure weakens your defense. And over time, this repeated inflammation becomes more than just discomfort. It becomes a pattern, a low, constant fire inside your digestive system, a pressure your immune system must fight day after day. And modern science is clear. Chronic inflammation is a gateway, not just to fatigue or gut issues, but to long-term diseases like ulcerative colitis, liver dysfunction, and yes, even certain cancers. All this from a bowl of rice. So what's the right way? It's simple but non-negotiable. After cooking, don't let rice sit. Cool it within 1 hour. Not 2, not 3. Transfer it into shallow containers. Refrigerate immediately in a sealed box. And when reheating, do it just once. Heat it evenly, thoroughly, until it's steaming hot. If it's been reheated once already, let the rest go. No second chances. It may feel wasteful, but your health isn't something to gamble for a spoonful of leftovers. Rice is sacred in many cultures. It feeds families. You slice an apple, a banana, maybe a mango or watermelon. Place it in a bowl. Cover it. Store it in the fridge for later. It feels clean, healthy, safe. But what happens after that first slice is something most people never consider. The moment a fruit is cut, it begins to die. Not just physically, but chemically. And with that transformation, danger slowly creeps in. Fruits are designed by nature to protect their insides. The skin, the peel, the outer layer, all of it acts like a shield. It keeps bacteria out. It locks moisture and nutrients in. But once you break that seal, the inside is suddenly exposed to air, to light, to every microorganism floating through your kitchen. What you don't see is how fast things change. In seconds, oxygen begins its work. Enzymes within the fruit react to the air, a process called oxidation. This is why apples turn brown, why bananas spot and soften. It's not just a cosmetic issue. It's a chemical shift. Oxidation lowers vitamin content, reduces freshness, alters pH. But worse, it weakens the fruit's defenses. Now, bacteria that were once harmless on the surface begin to multiply. Moisture pools at the bottom of the bowl. Sugars begin to ferment. And in warm conditions, even inside some refrigerators, mold can form, even if you can't see it yet. Left for too long, cut fruits can become breeding grounds. Not just for spoilage, but for bacteria like Listeria and Salmonella. Especially dangerous for children, the elderly, or anyone with a weak immune system. The biggest trap? The fruit still smells sweet, still tastes good, but inside, the bacterial count may already be climbing. And here's the deeper concern: repeated exposure. It's not just one bad fruit bowl. It's the habit of keeping pre-cut fruits for days, of storing them uncovered, of eating them when they've lost their natural firmness, their clean scent, their shine. Even if you don't fall ill right away, the gut notices. Microbes fight back, inflammation brews, and the body is left to clean up what should have never entered it. So what can you do? The answer is simple but intentional. If you cut fruit, eat it fresh. If you must store it, refrigerate it immediately, in a sealed, dry container. Avoid plastic wraps that hold in moisture. Avoid stacking fruits that release excess juice. And never leave cut fruits on the counter, even for an hour. Be especially careful with melons, papaya, and pineapple. They spoil faster than most. And always check for changes in smell, texture, or color. Don't guess. Trust your instincts. Nature designed fruit to be eaten whole or freshly cut. That's when it carries life. That's when it heals. After that, it begins to fade. In the next part, we move from sweetness to something more savory: chicken. Cooked, stored, and often forgotten in the back of the fridge. But behind its flavor lies a silent threat waiting to grow. It's a kitchen regular. Grilled, roasted, fried, curried, chicken finds its way into nearly every household. It's affordable. It's versatile. It's a good source of protein. And when you've made too much, it goes into a container, into the fridge, waiting for the next meal. But that moment, the time between cooking and storage, is where the quiet danger lives. Because cooked chicken is not just food. It's fuel, not just for your body, but for bacteria. You see, chicken, like all meats, is dense with moisture and protein. That makes it highly perishable. The moment it cools, bacteria begin to spread. And if it's not chilled fast enough or stored the wrong way, it becomes a perfect environment for microbial growth. One of the most dangerous culprits? Clostridium perfringens. It's not a name most people recognize. But it's one of the leading causes of foodborne illness worldwide, and cooked meat is its favorite hiding place. This bacterium thrives in warm, moist conditions. Exactly what happens when hot chicken is left out on the counter. Even just 2-3 hours is enough for bacterial colonies to multiply. And the worst part? Once they release toxins, reheating doesn't help. These toxins can survive high temperatures. So when you reheat that chicken the next day, if it wasn't stored correctly, the bacteria may be gone, but their toxins remain. And your gut pays the price. You might feel nausea, stomach cramps, sudden diarrhea, or sometimes nothing at all. Just a quiet inflammation slowly wearing your system down. The immune system begins to strain. Your gut barrier weakens. And over time, the chronic pressure on your digestive and detox systems creates deeper consequences, including an increased risk of long-term illnesses. That's how a simple leftover turns into something dangerous. Not because the chicken was undercooked, but because it was mishandled after cooking. So how do you store it safely? Here's what matters. Let cooked chicken cool slightly, but don't wait too long. Refrigerate it within 2 hours, ideally within 1. Store it in a shallow sealed container. If it's a large batch, divide it into smaller portions. Never leave cooked chicken in foil at room temperature. That traps heat and creates a false sense of safety. And when it's time to reheat, make sure it's steaming hot all the way through. Not lukewarm, not just warm on the edges, and never reheat more than once. If the smell is off, even slightly, don't take the risk. If the texture feels slimy or uneven, trust your senses. Because food safety isn't about fear, it's about respect. Chicken nourishes, it builds strength, but only when treated with the care it deserves. In the next part, we'll explore a more delicate danger, leafy greens. Spinach, lettuce, arugula, praised for their health benefits. But once stored the wrong way, they begin to break down in ways your body doesn't always forgive. They sit lightly in your fridge, a bundle of spinach, a bag of lettuce, a few fresh herbs. Green, crisp, full of life. The picture of health. These leafy vegetables have long been praised for their vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. They're the core of every clean diet. But beneath their fragile leaves lies a quiet warning. Fresh doesn't last long. Leafy greens are incredibly delicate. From the moment they're harvested, they begin to decay. Even under refrigeration, the clock is ticking. Moisture starts to gather in the creases. Edges begin to wilt. The leaves darken, slowly, quietly. And while they may still appear edible, the internal chemistry is already shifting. Spinach in particular is rich in nitrates, natural compounds found in vegetables. When fresh and raw, these nitrates are harmless, even beneficial. But once stored for too long, especially when chopped wet or improperly sealed, these nitrates can convert into nitrites, and further still into nitrosamines. Nitrosamines are compounds that scientists have studied for decades. In animals, they've been linked to cancer development. In humans, consistent exposure, and even at low levels, may contribute to long-term gut and liver stress, especially when combined with other food storage mistakes. The danger isn't loud. It doesn't come with a foul odor. It often doesn't even trigger symptoms right away. But repeated consumption of poorly stored leafy greens, especially if they're slimy, wilted, or have been reheated in soups, adds silent pressure on your digestive system. And it's not just about chemical change. Leafy greens are also prone to bacterial contamination. E. coli, Listeria, and Salmonella love to hide in their folds. If stored in warm, humid conditions, or left unwashed in plastic bags, the risk multiplies. Even in your fridge, poor airflow and excess moisture can turn a health food into a health hazard. So what should you do? Start with how you buy them. Choose greens that are dry, crisp, and firm. Avoid bags with moisture inside. Even a few droplets mean the breakdown has begun. Once home, wash and dry thoroughly. Use a clean cloth or spinner. Then wrap the greens loosely in a paper towel and place them in a breathable container. Don't pack them too tightly, they need air, and always consume them within 3-5 days. Never leave a salad bowl uncovered overnight. Never reheat green vegetables like spinach or arugula in the microwave. And if you see dark slime, odd smells, or strange textures, trust your eyes. Don't ask questions, just discard. Because greens are medicine when fresh, but when poorly stored, they become something else entirely. In the next part, we'll turn to a deceptively simple food: boiled eggs. Safe when fresh, risky when forgotten. A protein powerhouse that turns quickly if you're not careful. They seem harmless, simple. A boiled egg resting quietly in the fridge, peeled or unpeeled, soft or hard. Packed with protein, ready to go. An easy snack, a healthy breakfast. But eggs are fragile, not just in their shell, but in their chemistry. And once they're cooked, their protective barriers begin to fade. Raw eggs have a built-in defense system. The shell, the membrane, and even the proteins inside are designed to block bacteria. But boiling changes that structure. It firms the proteins. It expands the shell slightly. It creates micro cracks you often can't see. And once those cracks form, the door opens. If a boiled egg is stored too long or at the wrong temperature, it becomes highly perishable. And the bacteria that make it inside, like Salmonella or Listeria, can survive far longer than most people expect. Worse, they can grow even when the egg smells and looks normal. The most common mistake? Leaving boiled eggs out at room temperature, even for a few hours, whether for a picnic, a lunchbox, or just forgotten on the kitchen counter. Those few hours can be enough for bacterial growth to begin, especially in warmer climates. Another problem? storing peeled eggs in water hoping to keep them fresh. That water, unless changed constantly and kept cold, becomes a breeding ground for microbes. The surface of the egg begins to soften, allowing bacteria to creep into tiny crevices. And unlike some foods where spoilage has a clear smell, boiled eggs can deceive. They may taste fine, feel firm, but still harbor invisible risks. Digestive discomfort, nausea, sudden stomach upset. These are the early signs. But more importantly, repeated exposure to spoiled proteins can irritate your gut lining. It creates a low-grade immune response. And over time, that inflammation takes a toll. Boiled eggs also oxidize quickly. Once cooked, the cholesterol in the yolk can interact with oxygen and form oxidized lipids, compounds that, in excess, are linked to heart stress and arterial inflammation. This isn't a reason to avoid eggs. It's a reason to store them wisely. So what should you do? Keep unpeeled boiled eggs refrigerated immediately. Not on the counter. Not overnight. Eat them within 1 week. And if peeled, try to consume within 2 to 3 days max. Store them in a clean, dry, airtight container. No standing water, no mixing with raw foods. If the egg has an unusual odor, texture, or any sliminess, do not guess. Don't rely on a sniff test. Just throw it out. A good egg can nourish. A bad one can harm. And the line between the two is thinner than most people realize. In the next part, we move into something creamier. Dairy products. Milk, cheese, yogurt. Rich in calcium, but also rich in risk when not handled with care. You open the fridge. A carton of milk. A tub of yogurt. A slice of cheese sealed in its wrapper. Dairy feels safe, cold, sealed, preserved. It's supposed to be stable, protected by refrigeration. But what many people forget is that dairy is alive. Not in the way that fruit or greens are alive, but in the sense that its freshness depends on balance. Temperature, time, exposure. And once that balance is disturbed, dairy begins to shift. Quickly, silently. Milk is one of the most temperature-sensitive foods in your kitchen. Leave it out for even 30 minutes to an hour, and bacteria begin to multiply. You may put it back in the fridge, thinking it's fine, but the damage has already begun. Lactic acid bacteria, which help give milk its sour taste, start their work faster than you think. And if bad bacteria, like Listeria or E. coli, have entered through improper sealing or cross-contamination, the risk multiplies. Yogurt might seem more stable since it's fermented, but once the seal is broken, oxygen enters. The probiotics begin to weaken, and the live cultures can shift, losing their beneficial effect while giving room for harmful microbes to grow. Especially if the spoon used wasn't clean, especially if it was double-dipped. Especially if it sat out during breakfast and was returned without question. Cheese is no exception, especially soft cheeses like paneer, mozzarella, or brie, which have higher moisture content. Once exposed to air, their surfaces can develop mold spores even inside the fridge. You might scrape the visible mold away, but microscopic strands could already have spread deep into the cheese. And powdered milk, often assumed safe, can absorb moisture from the air and become a breeding ground for bacteria if not sealed properly. The greatest danger with dairy isn't the immediate illness. It's the repeated exposure to low-level spoilage, that slow buildup of toxins. The inflammatory stress it places on your gut, liver, and immune system. Small discomforts, lactose intolerance that wasn't there before, skin reactions, chronic bloating, fatigue. All of it connected sometimes to spoiled dairy you didn't even know was spoiled. So how do you store it, right? Always refrigerate dairy below 5 degrees, 41 degrees. Never leave milk or yogurt out while cooking. Take what you need and return the container immediately. Use clean, dry spoons every time. Don't leave cheese open. Wrap it in wax paper or a breathable cheese wrap. And never taste test milk to check freshness. If it's close to expiry or has been mishandled, discard it. With dairy, freshness is trust. Once broken, it doesn't come back. In the next part, we turn to a humble kitchen staple, the potato. Earthy, hearty, reliable, but under the wrong conditions, it can turn dangerous in ways that surprise even seasoned cooks. It's easy to forget how fragile food is. We cook, we eat, we store what's left and move on. Sometimes a day, sometimes a week. We trust the fridge. We trust packaging. We trust that if it doesn't look spoiled, it must be fine. But food doesn't stay still. It's always changing. Even in cold storage, even sealed, even when it looks clean. Proteins break down. Bacteria multiply silently. Moisture shifts, pH changes, toxins form. And it's not about panic. It's about awareness. Each time we eat something that's been mishandled, even slightly, our body works harder. The gut has to filter through what shouldn't be there. The liver has to clean up the mess. The immune system stays on guard, not for one meal, but again and again and again. And that repetition over time creates damage we don't feel right away. Low-grade inflammation, disrupted digestion, weakened cellular defense, and eventually, for some, the long road toward chronic illness. But the good news is, food can also heal, when stored right, handled with care, respected. So here are the principles. Simple, clear, effective. Cool your food fast. Store it in shallow sealed containers. Label dates when possible. Avoid reheating the same item multiple times. Don't store food in foil. Don't trust your nose alone. And if you're unsure, throw it out, because your body is worth more than saving a spoonful of rice or half a bowl of soup. A healthy life isn't just about what you eat. It's also about how you store what you eat, and whether your kitchen is set up to preserve health or silently compromise it. Be thoughtful. Be aware. Eat fresh when possible. Respect leftovers and don't keep them. Make your fridge a place of safety, not a quiet threat. Because in the long run, it's not just the food you choose. It's the choices you make after cooking that often matter most.